Welcome to Conversation with Zaki Baruti, with your host Zaki Baruti. And like I always, I want to give a shout out to my biological family. What's going on? To the Universal African Peoples Organization family, what's happening? And to New Life Evangelistic Center family headed by Reverend Rice. Keep up the great work. And a shout out to our amazing cameraman. On that note, we're going to have another great show because we're going to be doing part 2 of a 2-part series with my good brother all the way from Ghana. I'm speaking none other than Kwesi Essel-Blankson, who's the author of our story, Cape Coast Castle and the Transatlantic Slave Trade. Welcome again, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. And with that said, when I start my programs, I know we did a part 1. This is part 2. Some people may have missed part 1. Would you share, for those who are tuning in for part 2, a little bit of your background, where you come from, how you grew up, or wherever you want people to know?
Yes, my name is Kwesi Essel-Blankson, and I'm from Ghana, a great African city in West Africa, particularly from Cape Coast, where my parents, my biological family comes from. I grew up in different parts of the country, schooling in different parts as well, because my mother was a midwife. And we grew up in a small town in Achimachase, Big Eyes, Achimachase, where she was a midwife, served as a midwife for about 30 years. And so I attended schools in various parts of the country, Accra, Sekondi, Takoradi, Swedru, Cape Coast particularly, where I attended the Fanspim School, and in the University of Cape Coast as well. And then I'm currently working in with the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board in the Western region. But
you currently working with who now?
The Ghana Museums and Monuments Board.
Okay.
Yes, I'm stationed in the Western region. But I worked in the Cape Coast Castle in Central region, Cape Coast, for about 20 years.
Okay. Now, what brings you here to the St. Louis region and in actuality also large parts of the United States, because you've traveled extensively here in the United States the last couple of weeks?
Yes. Firstly, we're invited, the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board was invited by the State Department to share experience with museums in the United States. So we visited D.C., we visited Charleston, we visited Cincinnati, we visited Alabama, and then Regina Dennis, whom I worked with when President Obama was visiting Ghana in 2009, encouraged me to visit St. Louis. And I said, well, fine. St. Louis, I've heard St. Louis as an old city in the United States. Let me take the opportunity to visit St. Louis and share my little knowledge and experience with the people. I also interact and meet very important and nice people of St. Louis. So that's why I'm here in St. Louis. And I've been really enjoying myself. Everywhere we go, everybody welcomes us nicely. People of St. Louis are wonderful people, and I'm very glad to be here.
Yeah, I want to just give our shout out to Regina Dennis, a very powerful young lady who has done extensive work in Africa. Yeah. So on that note, your book, Our Story, Cape Coast Castle, and the Transatlantic Slave Trade. And before we get in there, I just wanted to put out an advertisement because we did do part 1 and we went into a lot of the politics of Ghana. So for those of you, I always encourage people to go to our YouTube station, which is UAPO News World, to get that, as well as, of course, as you're looking at this program, per NELC TV. Please share it and let folks know, because part 1 was off the chain for me, and I know part 2 will be off the chain also in terms of the information that you're sharing. And the information, again, out of your book, Our Story, Cape Coast Castle, this Transatlantic Slave Trade. What motivated you to write this book, first and foremost?
Yes, when I was employed by the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board in Cape Coast in around 2000, I realized there was very scanty information about the transatlantic trade, although there are a lot of them written in books. But to get a concise presentation of tours and what kind of information that should come out of the facility was limited. And so I decided to first write my own presentation. And then when I made a presentation and I took a tour, I recorded it and transcribed it. And then that's how I got to answer questions that have come to me. And if I'm not able to answer the questions, I look for it, the answer, and then put it down.
Okay.
So that is how I got about to start writing this book.
So for total clarity, so you used to conduct tours
Yes.
of the slave castles. And within those tours, then out of that experience, you end up writing this book. Okay, then. Now, you may mention you also have helped guide tours for some prominent people, right?
Yes.
From the United States that have visited Ghana and in particular the Cape Coast Castle. Who are some of those people that you have shared the information of?
Yes.
And was a tour guide?
Yeah. First up, well, not the first, but rather one of the most important of them was the former president of America United, President Barack Obama and his family.
Oh, so Barack Obama and his family were at the castle, and you were their tour guide.
I was a tour guide.
Okay,
yes.
And who else?
And also Nancy Pelosi.
Okay.
And also Melania Trump.
Donald Trump.
Melania Trump.
Okay.
And also the Kamala Harris in recent times.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
And also the mayor of New York. The current mayor of New York.
Wow, his name Eric Adams.
Eric Adams.
Right.
And also the minority leader in the House of
Hakeem
Jeffries.
Okay,
yes.
then. So okay then.
And a lot of CEOs and government officials. I have lots of them.
Okay, so you rub shoulders with a lot of powerful people.
Yes,
then,
yes,
and provided a lot of information.
Yeah.
And one other thing, but I'll share that on the other side of the break.
For years, Zaki Baruti has been an activist in our community, and it's a real privilege of mine to have known Zaki, to be with him on many of the marches, and to continue to see his perseverance. You and I also must know that we can, in the midst of pressure, and yes, there's a lot of pressure on being an activist. It's a thankless job. Many times people don't appreciate it. Many people don't understand you. They ridicule, they reject you. But we have to continue to, in spite of the pressure, to continue to trust God and speak truth to power. That's not easy. It's easy to give in. I think of the nuclear submarine USS Thresher that went down so deep in the 1960s into the ocean. It just exploded or imploded, and the pieces were all over. 129 men died, but yet there's those fish they discovered later that could continue to swim in the midst of all that pressure that destroyed that submarine. Why? Because there was equal pressure inside that little fish that withstood the rest of it. Now, you and I can experience that power inside of us, and we find it right here in the Word of God. For greater is He who's in us than he that's in the world. Christ, the hope of glory, can come and dwell within us. As we surrender our life to Him, we'll see Him do exceedingly abundantly beyond we can even ask or think. This Bible is just filled with directives, how to overcome pressure. Read the book of 1 Peter, where it says your faith is more precious than gold. See in 2 Peter chapter 1, the promises that are awaiting you at this particular moment there. And continue to look at how the disciples overcame pressure in Acts chapter 5, even counting it all joy, as James chapter 1, verses 2 and 3 tells us, in the midst of pressure. It's right there in the Word of God. I'd encourage you to read the Word of God and let Christ's hope of glory come and dwell within you, because the pressures are becoming more and more intense at this particular time. But truly, you and I can be the activist, more than conquerors through Christ who strengthens us. Continue to persevere, never giving up or giving in, but continue to give it to God, moving forward, experiencing hope and help at this time.
God loves a cheerful giver. Even though things are really tough right now, you can make a difference in the lives of so many. New Life has been doing this work for 50 years, and we have seen God's gracious goodness through people like you who have participated in this work. There are so many people who are suffering. More people are becoming homeless for the first time with the rising costs of inflation and food and housing and so many other commodities. We need help. You can make a difference today in the lives of so many by giving your tax-deductible gift to P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. Or go to newlifeevangelisticcenter.org or call to get involved in this incredible work.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is my good colleague, Kwesi Essel-Blankson, author of our story, Cape Coast Castle and the Transatlantic Slave Trade. On the other side of the break, I had a mental thought that my engineer brought to my attention, and I said I need to ask it before I go any further. When you wrote this book, you guys, Castle, and I was blessed to go to Ghana and visit the castle. This Gold Coast Castle, as they call it. But why do they call it castle? How come they don't call it a dungeon? Because it was really a dungeon in a sense.
In fact, these facilities were known as barracoons, they were known as factories, they were known as dungeons for use purposely to trade in captives from Africa. But when the local people were colonized and after the transatlantic slave trade, after the trade had been abolished, then the Queens and Kings representative came to reside in there and elevated to the status of a castle instead of a dungeon. So that's how the name changed. So it has been used synonymously.
Okay. But it was a dungeon.
It was a dungeon. It was a factory. That's what they call it.
And when I visited that, the tour guide did share, that some of the kings and the actually lived over there. Yeah. In fact, if I may share, that in one of the kings, I can't remember the name, lived right above where they had the female slaves, and they would have a little secret room to bring them up to the top.
That's Elmina
so
Castle.
That they could, to rape them and what have you. Okay, then, so within the book, what do we get from reading the book?
Sure, you get to read about how Africans got involved. It is a very
got involved in what?
In the slave trade.
Okay, how the Africans themselves.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Yes, because
you mean being captive or participating to help capture?
Both of them.
All right, go ahead.
Both of them. Because the story is bristled with so many uncertainties and inconsistencies. But when you look underneath these inconsistencies, there are a whole lot of information that comes up. Because if you tell me you came to my house and you asked me to sell my brother and sister to you for no cost, how did I do that? But there's a process that was so often in the book I refer to it as a slavery process.
A slavery process.
It was a process.
And what was that process? Can you then say that real?
Let me hit it directly.
Okay.
Yes, Europeans came to Africa particularly after during the Wars of Crusades, after the Wars of Crusades, and they realized they wanted to get direct access to gold. They wanted direct access to resources like spices and etc. from Africa, which had been taken away from them by the Arabs. And so their objective was to get them. But soon after that, America was supposedly discovered, and Europeans came to America to establish plantations and started using the local Amerindians for slavery. But the death rate among them was very high, which forced them to look elsewhere. And so looking into Africa, they realized Africans are robust, we could withstand diseases, and most importantly, we were professional farmers. So we could tender rice, we could tender cotton, we could tender sugarcane, and etc. And so they decided to use Africans whom they are contact with. They have realized we can do all these things. But how they did it was to first recruit outcasts, recruit recalcitrant people who have been sent out of the community, because we don't have standard prisons. We didn't have standard prisons as traditional prisons. So criminals in the society, we outcast them, we sack them from the community. They can go elsewhere and survive. If they go into the bush and they die, they are eaten by animals, that's fine.
So those who violated community norms basically was ostracized, forced out of the community.
And these were the people that the Europeans relied on, recruited, trained.
Oh, okay.
To
come back in.
To put like vengeance on the part of those people. They are avenging their communities.
Okay.
Yes, and some of them were also greedy. We have in Ghana we say in every house there's an undesirable element in it, and so these are the people that were used by Europeans to get into the African community.
Yes. I appreciate that because that has always been, how did we participate in
because
our own enslavement?
The chief is always there to protect the community.
Right.
The king is protect the community, the leaders protect. And that's even how the name chief came into our vocabulary.
Okay.
You see, we have African leaders go by different names. In my tribe, we call them Nana, Nananum. Yeah. So if you address my Nananum as chiefs, how the chief is an English word. How did they come in?
No.
Yes, they formed what they call the chief of party. They identified people whom they can work with as a chief of party, and they related with him. And by empowering them with goods, trade goods, which they gave them out in credit, they gave them ammunition, which they gave out in credit, made these people so powerful and influential, so much that in places where they were the kings were not so strong, they undermined them and overthrew them and took over the communities. Some of them also formed community slave trading hubs, and this gradually turned into communities, villages and towns, and also had their leadership and stuff. So the traditional leadership gradually changed from their traditional role to become chiefs.
Okay.
That's how the name evolved from Nananum to chief. So Akan leaders don't address themselves as chiefs. They call themselves Nananum.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right then. So you delve into the slave trade, what have you. What was and I appreciate the analysis as relates to the Europeans coming here to America.
Yes.
They couldn't. The Native Americans couldn't survive. We were the people that were brought in to do the labor here in this country, to build this country to where it's at. What other key aspect in your book that you lay out that why people should read it?
And I also made comparisons.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase this question. Give the dynamics, because, again, having just recently been there, give the dynamics within the castle itself in terms of the horrors that people had to experience.
God. For instance, if you have the opportunity to visit the dungeons,
right.
The castle, yes, you visit dungeons, you experience, in fact, the very first step you take into the dungeons, you step on the remains of the captives. You step on their feces, you step on their blood, you step on their
feces,
the blood, the decomposed bodies, their clothes, the food, and many things that they have left over. In fact, including their tears and sweats that they left over in the dungeon. These are still very impactful in the dungeons. You see the system, how they used to control the captives in the dungeons, the loopholes that they look through to eavesdrop on the captives, to listen to some of the plans they were going through, that they're taking to probably to resist.
Okay.
Yes, you can. There's a hole that you can. They eavesdrop to look to study the whole dynamics of the place. There was a place where they could.
Wait a minute, let me again stop you. Oh, well, I got to stop you anyway in break time.
New Life Evangelistic Center wants you to join us for our events. We have a variety of different kinds of events that happen throughout the year here at New Life Evangelistic Center, and you're invited to all of them. We have special faith promise and fundraising dinners that we definitely want you to be a part of. Here you'll learn more about our staff, you'll learn more about all the different things that are going on at New Life, and you'll also be inspired by what God is doing by building His kingdom through this incredible ministry. You don't want to miss these dinners. We also have special fundraising events like a walkathon, and we have another event where we will spend a night out with the homeless. This is a very special event, and we don't want you to miss it. We also have unique events where we serve homeless men and women and equip them with the things that they need to survive. These events happen throughout the year, and especially during Christmas or Thanksgiving. Here we serve meals, we serve tracts, and we preach the gospel with our words and with our actions. We definitely want you to participate with that as we seek to interact with people who are experiencing homelessness. For all of these kinds of events, we need volunteers. So you can learn more about our events by going to nlecstl.org/events. Or you can call us at 314-421-3020 to learn about our closest event. I definitely recommend that you get involved in your community by partnering with us here at New Life Evangelistic Center.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is Brother Kwesi Essel-Blankson, author of our story, Cape Coast Castle and the transatlantic slave trade. On the other side of the break, we was getting into the dynamics taking place in the castle/dungeon.
Yes.
If my memory serves me right, because in Ghana at that time, you had different languages being spoken.
Yes.
So they would also combine folks who
Came from different places.
So that prevented a lot of communication. Because if you speak in some language.
If I speak in, let's say, Tree, somebody speaks in Fanti, somebody speaks in the Kwapim, somebody speaks Dagomba.
Right. So
Gati,
that prevented them from getting together to rebel. Am I right around?
Yeah, but after being in the dungeons for some time, they united in one cause because they realized that we are here for one reason or for one faith. And so it's irrespective of the communication barrier, people were able to come together to form bonds.
And in forming the bonds, were there any rebellions that you know of within the dungeon itself?
Yes, there were several of them those are recorded, but not in the public view.
Okay.
Yes.
So with that said, then, what were some of the other horrors? I just, in terms of the treatment of women, children. Were there children there?
Yes, in fact, the dungeons are divided they have separate dungeons for the male and the female dungeons. The female have the children. The children, most of them, the average age was between 13 and 30. So from 13 to 40, 45, and people with old gray hair like us were shaving, polished with palm.
When you say like us.
Yes, we have gray hair.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We have gray hair, so we are shaving and polished with palm oil to make us look strong and healthy because the demand was for young people. And so to make us look younger, they did that purpose. And also there was a door that led directly into the female dungeons. And the soldiers and officials would go through that dungeon to pick the women, wash them and abuse them or rape them in their quarters. After that, they were brought back into the dungeons. Now, those who were found to be pregnant in the dungeons were taken out. There were stone houses with hired mistresses whose business was to take care of such women. After they delivered, they brought them back. The babies were left behind. Most of them died. The few that survived from the core of an institution, by the church that managed them. Those who were found to be pregnant on the ships were thrown into the ocean.
Now, you may mention the key word church. And I don't know if it was, I know they had some churches. I visited a couple of dungeons while there, that they had church services on the second floor, and they had the people in the dungeons right beneath them. Yeah. Did that actually occur?
That's what happened. The Cape Coast Castle, Elmina Castle, both of the churches are on top of the dungeons. Yes, and in Cape Coast Castle particularly, there's a hole that comes out directly in front of the church, and the psalms and songs went through that hole. The moans and groans of the people, the dungeons also came out. So whilst there, you can imagine the melody that played out there.
Yeah. So, okay, they also. Well, I got to ask this question on the other side of the break.
Open your eyes, open your heart. Look around you. There's hurting and homeless men, women, and children everywhere. More than I've seen in over 52 and a half years of this work. And New Life Evangelistic Center is helping you to connect with them. There's so many ways that you can give. You can give online at nlecstl.org. You can send your much-needed gift to New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri, that's 63166. You can pray for the work of New Life Evangelistic Center. You can volunteer, but please get involved now. Be the answer to someone's prayers. Let the light and love of God flow through you. We're facing many, many needs here at New Life Evangelistic Center. New Life Evangelistic Center does not receive city, state, or federal dollars. It doesn't even receive the United Way dollars. Why? Because it connects daily with the hurting and the homeless. And it wants to help meet their needs directly. And that's why you are so very, very important. So as the Holy Spirit speaks to your heart, please write out that check and send it to New Life Evangelistic Center at P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri, that's 63166. Remember the words of Jesus? When I was hungry, did you feed me? Naked, did you clothe me? Sick or in prison, you visit me. A stranger, did you welcome me? As oft you've done to the least these, even so you've done it unto me. Let the light and love of Christ flow through you into the lives of the hurting and the homeless, the hundreds of people that New Life Evangelistic Center comes in contact with every day all over mid-America. Please send that gift in now. It's so urgently needed. So many outreaches the New Life Evangelistic Center has, but it needs you now. So please share that much needed gift with New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri, that's 63166, or give online at nlecstl.org, and let your light so shine before men and women they may see your good works and glorify our Father who is in heaven.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. We only have a couple more minutes with our guests. One of the questions, that I hear that's out in the community sometime among folks who live here in this country, why should people visit the slave castles or dungeons?
Slave dungeons?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you visit the dungeons, it reconnects you. You don't only learn about the transatlantic slave trade, but you learn about the culture of the people. You come through the community, so you experience the community. You interact with people outside before you come into there. So it's an opportunity to reconnect with the people and get acquainted with some of the cultural practices, the food, the songs, the mannerism of the people. In fact, when I shook your hands, you remember I tried to flip your hand. That's what we do in Ghana. When you shake hands, you flip, and I'm going to learn all that. And so it's going to make you a whole being. It's a full cycle.
Okay, and
yes,
as well as just important to know your history.
Just as important to know your history, how you came into the United States of America, particularly if you're a black person.
Right.
And then you get to realize that some of the things going on currently are things that have gone on before.
And let me ask this question, because why is it important for especially black people to visit Africa? Real quick.
It's important for our black people to visit Africa to reconnect with the people of Africa, to connect with their past.
And your country also provides, for those who say, I'm so sick and tired of what we have to face here in this country, they calling for people to, what we call repatriate to Ghana, right? Or at least minimally have dual citizenship. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct. In fact, last week, the president of Ghana ushered in about 300 Africans in the diaspora as citizens of Ghana. And it's an annual affair since President Nkrumah instituted the Back to African movement with Marcus Garvey and other people.
Okay, if anybody want to reach out and contact you about your book or maybe even bring you to their city, how would they get in contact with you?
They're going to get through my mobile number. Also, my email address is Essel-Blankson@gmail.com, and also through Ghana Travel. You can see Ghana Travel at the back of the book. In Ghana Travel, you have my name there, and my contacts, everything there.
Okay, and your book, and that's for those who see the different numbers. That's what it's called, a WhatsApp number.
WhatsApp,
that's for
WhatsApp
folks
number, yes.
with WhatsApp. As well as your book is located in several locations here in St. Louis.
Yes, the Progressive...
Progressive Emporium, Afro World,
yes,
and Sankofa Books.
Sankofa Bookshop in
Okay, then.
DC.
So make sure you go out and get a copy. I truly appreciated you taking time out of your busy schedule, coming all the way from Ghana to be with Zaki Baruti, Conversation with Zaki Baruti, and and let's do that again. Now we do this. Oh, and you do.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute. Now this is what we do. That's how we do it.
That's how you do it, yeah.
All right. How you do it? All right. Okay.
But we do it this way.
All right. Oh, all right. On that note, may God continue to bless everybody who's tuned in to the program. We always say that everybody who want to make a difference in our community should join an organization that speaks truth to power and have a history of working for the upliftment of the people. And we say join the Universal African Peoples Organization, www.uapo.org. On that note, again and again, may God bless each and every one of you.